Welcome to the world of journalism, where reporters seek to uncover the truth and shed lights on what's hidden in the shadows. But beneath the surface lies a dangerous truth. Crossing paths with cartels can be perilous. In this video, we will uncover the stories of 7 journalists who found themselves on the wrong side of cartels, with some of them facing unimaginable challenges. Number 7. Enrique Perea Quintanilla. Enrique Perea Quintanilla, born in 1956, was a fearless Mexican journalist with a mission to expose the dark underbelly of crime in Chihuahua. With over 2 decades of experience over his belt, he dove headfirst into the dangerous world of drug-related murders and political corruption. His magazine, Dos Caras, Una Verdad, became a beacon of truth in a sea of light, shining a light on the nefarious activities done by the Wars cartel and beyond. But his pursuit of justice came at a steep price. Enrique fell victim to the very forces he fought against. Abducted and brutally murdered, his lifeless body was found with 2 gunshot wounds, a stark reminder of the risk he took in his quest for truth. Not only was he targeted by the ruthless Wars cartel, but also by factions within the Mexican government. But why? The shocking truth lies in Enrique's relentless pursuit of uncovering the sinister figures orchestrating the chaos in Chihuahua. Enrique Perea Quintanilla showed amazing bravery, especially because Chihuahua was a tough place to be at the time. Even though the state officials were in charge, the Wars cartel had a lot of power. They controlled the illegal drug trade, making lots of money and fighting with the cartel, which caused a lot of violence. In this dangerous place, corruption was everywhere. Some cops and officials took bribes and didn't stop the cartel's crimes. Anyone who tried to stop them usually ended up hurt or killed in the violence. Within 24 hours, Chihuahua transformed into a modern-day Gotham City, where lawlessness reigned supreme. Amidst the chaos, Enrique assumed the role of a real-life Batman, striving to bring justice to a city drowning in corruption. Although his story ended tragically, it remains a testament to the unforgiving reality of fighting against impossible odds. Before his death, Enrique used his magazine as a tool for justice, focusing primarily on crime-related issues. He vocally criticized the Mexican government for the high homicide rates in Chihuahua, particularly the violence between rival drug cartels. His articles also shed light on corrupt officials, unsolved murders, and drug trafficking activities, which often led to harassment. In the days leading up to his murder, he exposed damning evidence, including photos and documents implicating government officials in the drug trade. This revelation, which even linked the then governor of Chihuahua, Jose Bazas, was the catalyst for Enrique's demise. On August 8, 2006, Enriquez was last seen leaving his office around 11 a.m. However, he never made it home that night. His family made a report that he was missing the following day, and the authorities later discovered his body dumped along a roadside. The crime scene revealed signs of torture, with wounds inflicted by a .45 caliber pistol to his head and back. Initially, police suspected the involvement of the Wars cartel due to the execution-style nature of the murder, but this theory was later disproved. On October 12, 2012, the Mexican media received a video from an anonymous source depicting 2 naked men who showed clear signs of torture, confessing to their involvement in the assassination of Enrique Perea Quintanilla. Several weeks later, another video surfaced on the Mexican news website LDO de Chihuahua. This video showed the brother of the Chihuahua State Attorney General, Marianela Gonzalez, handcuffed and surrounded by at least 5 masked gunmen armed with assault rifles. After answering questions, the man confessed that his sister, Patricia Gonzalez, the state attorney general, had ordered the execution of Enrique Perea Quintanilla. Many interpreted this as the cartel coercing the actual perpetrators into confessing. They attempted to shift blame into the cartel, but the cartel subsequently exposed the actual killers. Enrique's story is a gripping tale of courage, betrayal, and the high stakes of investigative journalism in a world where speaking truth to power can cost you everything. Number 6. Javier Valdez Cárdenas. Javier Valdez Cárdenas was born on April 14, 1967, in the same city where he met his fate. He grew up amidst rampant violence, including cocaine trade, kidnapping, and human trafficking. Unlike many others, Javier chose to fight against these crimes. He pursued a degree in sociology from the Autonomous University of Culiacán, and later became a reporter for the national TV station, Canal 3. In the 1990s, Javier worked with different TV stations, but wasn't happy with how they covered crime news. So he started his own newspaper called Rio 12. It was a good thing, because it let him uncover the hidden truths about organized crime, but it also made him a target. But he kept writing, and even wrote some books about drug trafficking that became famous worldwide. One of his books, Miss Narco, talked about the lives of girlfriends and wives of drug lords, showing how they were treated terribly. During a tumultuous period, marked by former Mexican President Felipe Calderón's deployment of approximately 6,000 army soldiers to Michoacán and Culiacán to combat corruption, investigation, Javier faced grave dangers. Despite the intense crackdown on drug trafficking, he persisted in his investigations without the protection of guns or bodyguards. In September 2009, the Culiacán cartel launched an attack on Rio 12, Javier's newspaper, by throwing a grenade at its facilities, causing significant damage. Fortunately, no injuries were reported, but the assault was believed to be retaliation for a crucial post Javier published 24 hours ago. Javier's publication, Hitman Confession of an Assassin in Ciudad Juárez, caused a significant uproar in public opinion. Despite the risk, he continued to expose individuals involved in criminal activities. Surprisingly, there were no further attacks or death threats on him or his family, until he once again provoked the Culiacán cartel in 2011. His courageous efforts were recognized when he received the International Press Freedom Award from the Comité to Protect Journalists in New York. In his acceptance speech, he openly criticized the violence in Mexico, holding both citizens and the government responsible for perpetrating the conflict. This stance angered not only the Mexican government, but also the Culiacán cartel, signaling a dangerous escalation. Ultimately, it became clear that Javier's outspokenness had made him a target, necessitating urgent action to ensure his safety. On May 15, 2017, Javier was ruthlessly shot 12 times by an unidentified gunman around noon, just a few blocks from his office in Culiacán. Despite extensive investigations, Mexican authorities failed to identify any suspects or leads in his murder. The assassination garnered condemnation from the U.S. Embassy in Mexico, the United Nations, and the European Union. Number 5. José Luis Romero. José Luis Romero, born in circa 1967, pursued political science and public administration studies at the Autonomous University of Sinaloa. Regarded as one of Mexico's bravest journalists, fearlessly, he dwelled into the heart of Culiacán, uncovering the exploits of El Chapo. Tragically, like many others, he paid the ultimate price for his courage. Romero's career began as a radio journalist for Línea Vea, where he became renowned for his coverage of the Mexican drug war and trafficking. However, his courageous reporting occurred in one of the hardest hit state, Sinaloa. Sinaloa is renowned as the stronghold of the infamous Sinaloa cartel, widely regarded as one of the world's most influential and notorious drug trafficking organizations, led by incarcerated drug lord Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán and the elusive Ismael El Mayo Zambada. This cartel has significant influence in the global drug trade. Its operations have fueled a surge in violence as rival cartels compete for control over lucrative drug routes and territories. This violence extends beyond the cartels themselves, impacting local communities and residents who often become unintended victims caught in the crossfire. During the peak of Mexico's war on drugs, the Sinaloa cartel, thanks to El Chapo covert ties with authorities, emerged relatively unscathed compared to other cartels. Simultaneously, without mercy, he targeted journalists who dared to expose his operations. A chilling total of 17 reporters fell victim to his brutality, with Luis Romero poised to be the next casualty. On December 30, 2009, Romero found himself outside a seafood restaurant in the Hilan neighborhood. Despite being on vacation the previous week, he was set to resume his work on a news program in January 2010. However, 4 hooded men armed with assault rifles abducted him, seized his vehicle, and vanished, leaving behind no traces that could lead to his discovery. Following his disappearance, a vigil convened outside the Attorney General's office in Los Mochis, where Sinaloa reporters rallied, urging authorities to expedite their response to the abduction. The situation escalated further when, just an hour after, State Ministerial Police Chief Investigator Jesus Escalante Lea initiated inquiries into Romero's case, he was gruesomely shot and killed outside his office. The methods and motives of the assailants remained mysterious, but suspicions pointed toward the Sinaloa's cartel's involvement. On January 16, 2010, the decomposing body of Jose was discovered along a highway outside Los Mochis. His remains bore evidence of severe beatings, torture, broken limbs, and 3 fatal gunshot wounds before being wrapped in a plastic bag. This grim revelation marked Romero as the 59th journalist killed in Mexico since 2000, reflecting the harrowing reality where journalism appeared to be synonymous with death sentence, with a staggering 90% likelihood of fatal consequences. Number 4. Vladimir Antuna. José Vladimir Antuna Vázquez García, born in 1970, began working as a journalist before 1990. Before he joined the El Tiempo de Durango newspaper, he worked for other newspapers and also did radio jobs. At El Tiempo de Durango, he focused on reporting and editing crime stories for 3 years. During his time there, he teamed up with another journalist named Eliseo Barrón Hernández to look into police corruption in Durango. This investigation was one of his most significant works in the state then. Sadly, both Antuna and his editor however, received 3 death threats during this investigation. Afterwards, it ultimately led to his death. It's important to note that the Mexican government had launched a drug war against trafficking, responding to the devastating crimes committed by the cartels, which had resulted in violence in Durango. The Zetas and the Sinaloa cartel were fighting for control of certain areas and had bribed media outlets, but Vladimir still wrote about the actions they were doing and the harm they caused. On April 29, 2009, a gunman attacked Vladimir Antuna as he left his house, but he managed to escape unharmed. Later that same day, he received a threatening call from an unknown individual. Despite the danger, Antuna persisted in his work. 3 weeks later, another journalist from LMO de Durango, Carlos Ortega Samper, was murdered. A week after that, a second journalist, Eliseo Barron, was beaten and killed. Vladimir Antuna received further threats. Despite the risk, he continued his investigations into the death of his colleague. Sadly, on November 2, 2009, he was abducted while on his way to work. His body was discovered later that day, showing signs of strangulation and multiple gunshot wounds. A message found on his body suggested that he was killed for providing information to the military and for writing articles deemed unacceptable. Vladimir Antuna's death was deeply troubling, yet no arrests were made, and there were no condemnation of the act, not even from the governor or the head of the federal police. The journalist in Durango saw it as a scary message, but even after trying hard, they couldn't find out who did it. Number 3. Miroslava Velducea. Miroslava Velducea, nicknamed Mava, was born on August 7, 1962, in the Sierra Tarahumara region of Chihuahua, Mexico. Raised by her single mother alongside her siblings, she never knew her father, who died when she was an infant, a victim of Mexico's drug war. This tragic loss fueled her determination to combat the clandestine activities of drug cartels. In 1987, after finishing school at the Autonomous University of Baja California Sur, she started to work as a journalist. At first, she worked for 2 small newspapers in Los Cabos, but soon she saw how much corruption there was in the media world and how dangerous it was for journalists who tried to uncover the truth. Even though it was risky, Brice was determined to challenge these powerful people and reveal their secrets. She thought it was important for someone to speak out, no matter what might happen. On March 4, 2016, Miroslava Brice stunned the journalism world with her report on La Prada. She revealed how drug cartels had secretly infiltrated the candidate list of major political parties in the remote areas of Chihuahua. However, her bravery had consequences. The newspaper cut ties with her, leaving her to face these powerful forces alone. Undeterred, she started her own news agency, MIR News, where she fearlessly tackled issues like human rights abuses and drug trafficking. Brice did not stop there. She dug deeper, uncovering massive corruption within the government. Her shocking findings exposed the former governor Cesar Duarte's alleged embezzlement of a staggering 900 million pesos during his time in office. In another groundbreaking investigation, Brice shed lights on clandestine graves in Ciudad Juarez, revealing failures and conspiracies within top levels of power. Her relentless pursuit of truth led to the removal of Sergio Almaraz Ortiz, the Secretary of Public Safety, whose incompetence was exposed. Miroslava's Brice's unwavering courage and determination are a symbol of hope in a dangerous and deceitful world. Despite receiving countless death threats from drug cartels and corrupt officials, she remained dedicated to her pursuit of truth and justice. "If I die," she liked to say, with one eyebrow rising, "it will be complete and in one blow." Sadly, her fearless crusade ended violently on March 23, 2017. She was shot 8 times while driving her son to school. Her death shocked Mexico and injured many she had defended through her journalism. Her assassination was not random. It was a chilling consequence of a relentless pursuit of truth. A note found on her body, attributed to Carlos Arturo Quintana, a notorious leader of the Juarez cartel's paramilitary wing, La Línea, chillingly stated, "For being a loudmouth." Investigations revealed a web of revenge tied to Quintana's father, Cesar Raúl Gamboa Sosa. But the motive for Brice's assassination went deeper. Investigations found her role in exposing major candidate Juan Miguel Salazar's alleged ties to the Calvo cartel, possibly costing him the election. Even more disturbing was her denied pleas for government protection for herself and her children. The murky circumstances of her death raised troubling questions. Was she targeted for challenging the Juarez cartel's power, or was her assassination part of a plan to silence her dissent against the government? As the truth remains elusive, her legacy reminds us of the dangers faced by those who fight corruption and injustice. Number 2. Anabel Flores Salazar. Anabel Flores Salazar, born in 1984, was a journalist from Mexico. She lived in a house in the mountains of Mariano Escobedo, in Orizaba, Veracruz. Anabel was married to Alejandro Baez Juarez, a former commander of the Nogales police. She was the mother of a 2-week-old baby and had a young son. She was just 32 years old when she was kidnapped and killed. She was taken in daytime, and her aunt, Sandra Luz Salazar, was with her. But what did she do that led to her tragic end? Let's uncover why Anabel Flores Salazar was kidnapped and killed. In the busy 1980s, Anabel fearlessly reported for El Sol de Orizaba, a respected newspaper, and other important places, diving into the shady world of crime and corruption. But some people wondered about her fancy lifestyle, thinking she might have connections to the cartels. Adding to the gossip was her friendship with a well-known cartel hitman, Victor Osorio Santa Cruz, also known as El Panta. However, just being friends with bad guys doesn't mean she's guilty. Anabel had to balance doing her job well with staying safe. Her reporting delved into the dark underbelly of local crime, shedding light on harrowing tales of murder and cartel activity. Critics questioned her neutrality, but little did they know that Anabel's silence on cartel criticism was a shield to protect innocent lives from retaliation. She was a beacon of truth in a murky world. Sadly, Anabel paid a heavy price for her dedication. One day in February of 2016, armed men invaded her home and got her separated from her son. Her body, later found, showed signs of suffocation and torture, a horrible reminder of the dangers journalists face in Veracruz, Mexico. Veracruz is a dangerous place for those who try to uncover its secrets, and Anabel became one of its many heroes who lost their lives. But her legacy reminds us of the sacrifices journalists make to find the truth. With her, there are many others, like the brave people who keep fighting against the darkness, no matter the risk. Number 1. Jineth Bedoya Lima. Meet Jineth Bedoya Lima, a journalist whose courage transcended mere heroism. In 2001, she was honored with the Courage in Journalism Award by the International Women's Media Foundation. Additionally, she was awarded the prestigious Golden Pen of Freedom by the World Association of Newspapers and News Publishers in 2020. However, Lima's journey has been marked by harrowing experiences. In 2000, she delved too profoundly into investigating an arms smuggling ring, leading to her abduction. She was taken 2 hours away from Bogota, where she was tied up, bound, and dumped in a garbage dump. Despite the danger, Lima's determination to uncover the truth won her recognition for her bravery as an investigative journalist in Colombia. But that wasn't the end of her ordeal. In the same year, Lima was kidnapped, tortured, and assaulted a second time. The first instance happened while she was working alongside Ignacio Gomez, another investigative journalist at the Bogota daily newspaper. Together, they were investigating arms trafficking by state officials and the paramilitary group known as the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia. In her pursuit of uncovering the truth, Jineth Bedoya Lima received a chilling invitation from a convicted killer known as the Baker, who claimed to have vital information. Accompanied by an editor and photographer, she ventured into La Modelo prison near Bogota. However, upon their arrival, events took a sinister turn. While awaiting clearance from the prison wardens, both the photographer and the editor briefly stepped out. In that brief absence, Lima vanished without a trace. There were no screams, no signs of struggle, and no willing eyewitnesses. Time later, Lima shared the scary story of what happened when she was kidnapped. She said there was a man with a scar in his eye and with very shiny shoes who grabbed her and threatened her with a gun. He brought her out of the prison using a different way, while the guards didn't do anything. Then, some men attacked her and hurt her really badly. They continued with the attack while saying scary things to the Colombian media. Left semi-conscious, Lima was discarded into a roadside dump. Thankfully, a compassionate taxi driver discovered her and rushed her to the hospital. Lima's survival of this ordeal exemplified her unwavering commitment to her work. Despite the immense danger and trauma she endured, she remained resolute, echoing the sentiment of Van Gogh, who famously said that she had put her heart and soul into her work, even losing her mind in the process. Undeterred by her previous harrowing experience, Jineth Bedoya Lima intensified her pursuit of truth. In 2001, she joined El Tiempo, a Colombian newspaper, as head of its law enforcement coverage, focusing on the conflict between FARC guerrillas, paramilitary groups, the armed forces, and the government. Lima garnered international acclaim in the US for her unyielding dedication to journalism, which also served as a shield against further violence. She receives assurances of safety from both the paramilitary bosses and FARC guerrilla chiefs, yet these promises proved deceitful. On August 20, 2003, Lima traveled to Puerto Alvira to report on its occupation by FARC guerrillas for over over a year, where residents were coerced into cocaine production. Upon arrival, they were seized and stripped of their belongings by the guerrilla leader. Despite strict orders, some rebels showed compassion, offering food and assistance upon learning of the leader's intent to harm Lima. Miraculously, a senior FARC commander intervened, telling them to release Lima and expressing regret for the initial kidnapping. Lima's resilience had elevated her to a national prominence in Colombia. Threatening her wasn't just a domestic concern, it was risking international scrutiny from organizations worldwide, partly attributed to the declining drug trafficking scene in Colombia. Jineth's continued survival is also credited to her extensive accolade and international acclaim, establishing her as the epitome of journalism in Colombia. As we finish learning about journalists who are tangled with dangerous cartels, it's clear that being a reporter can be risky. These stories show how getting involved with cartels can lead to some serious trouble. Their stories are not just tales of risk, they are odes to resilience and defiance, deserving an unwavering applause. Thank you so much for tuning into my video and making it till the end. If you enjoy it, consider hitting the like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future.